Hello everyone and welcome to Pam's Artsy Corner. In today's video, we will be painting a sunflower. Well, first we're going to draw it out. So we'll be sketching out a sunflower. You're going to need a canvas, or you can use a canvas board, a wood block, or you could also need a drawing, something to draw with. You could do like a pencil. You can use, some people use Sharpies before. I don't recommend it. I used an acrylic crayon in black. Of course, acrylic crayons come in different colors. It just depends on what color you want to use. You're going to need some different size paint brushes, like a medium-sized flat brush, a medium-sized round brush, and a liner brush. Now, if you could have all three, that would be fantastic. You're going to need a place to rinse out your brushes, so have a good sized water bucket or a bucket of water available. Not like for a mop. No, gosh, no, that's too big. And then, of course, you're going to need like a paper towel or a clean rag. And finally, you'll need a place to put your paint, a clean palette, or use a styrofoam plate. Any place like that to put your paint. You're also going to need a certain set of colors, not a certain set of skills, a certain set of colors here for this project. Now, if you don't have all of them, I'm sure you can make do. It's all about experimentation here. Definitely have a good titanium white. Payne's gray is my go-to favorite. Pyrrole orange or an orange will do fine. A primary yellow is a brighter shade of yellow. Red oxide is kind of like a rust color. Sap green hue is a standard kind of leaf color. And then there's a viridian green hue that's kind of like a turquoise. Diary Lied, I cannot pronounce that. Diary Lied yellow is a warmer, richer yellow. And then cerulean blue deep. And that is a nice shade for a sky on a sunny day. So let's get started then. Okay, we're going to start off with a circle or an ovalish circle. As you can see, I did not go for anything super duper precise. I just eyed it, and now I'm surrounding my sunflower with paisley-like shapes or teardrop-like shapes, and they all vary for the majority in width. Some of them are longer than others. Some of the points are a little tippy than others, and that's just my version of a sunflower. And I feel like I'm drawn to this style because it just feels a lot more freeing. If I get too precise with my art, then it kind of like robs it of the fun. So, and this is just a sketch. This is not to say that everything you draw is going to be filled in precisely. You might feel inspired to add other things. So, feel free to let your mind go here and just sketch out what you hope to paint. It doesn't necessarily have to be the exact item. So I added a second, a third, and I believe I'm going to add a fourth sunflower here, adding some stems and a couple of leaves. That's the plan. I'm still not sure what I'll put in the background at this point, but that's part of the fun, the exploring, right? A general rule of thumb is to not have an odd number of items in your painting. It is what I've learned from my experiences. An odd number is more pleasing to the eye. So even numbers, try to stay away from even numbers. And if you accidentally put together an even number, then mix it up. So at this point in the video, I had forgotten to press record. Oh, it's a bad idea when you're the painting teacher. But I will tell you that I took some Payne's Gray and Red Oxide, and I mixed up a bit of it until I had something like a darker brown shade, and I used that in the center of my flowers. Next, I blocked in my petals using a variety of shades of yellow, from the Dairy Light yellow to the primary yellow, a little bit here and there. Sometimes I would add some orange, or I would let that red oxide filter through. One thing about me, sometimes I just get going that I don't clean my brush. Some of my painterly habits are not the best, but if I'm able to make what I make and it still looks good, I'm okay with it. You know, I am not planning on having this hung in a gallery. I'm doing this for fun. And if your plan is to paint for fun, to enjoy yourself, then go for it, you know. If you want to be able to lay claim to, hey, I made a nice painting of sunflowers, don't worry about mixing colors or not cleaning your brush. Enjoy yourself. Just enjoy yourself. And if you're like me and you just eat up all those colors and you enjoy the experience of blending and the variety of shades here, do not fuss over a dirty paintbrush, okay? Everything gets washed out. And let me tell you, the good news is this is only the first coat, okay? You never want to leave your painting with just one coat of paint because it looks too simplistic. A good rule of thumb is I can see the canvas, the little whites on the canvas peeking through. Either I didn't lay down enough paint or I didn't lay down enough paint. So, and I found that it's more pleasing to the eye to add a variety of shades. Generally, I'll start with something darker and then build upon that, not covering the dark color completely. And it tends to brighten up whatever it is I'm painting. Since my favorite subject for painting is flowers, it has a nice quality for it. And if you've ever looked very closely at a flower, whether it be a sunflower, a rose, a tulip, hydrangea, a pansy, whatever, they're not simply one shade. So adding multiple shades of color lends vibrance and authenticity to your painting. I know we're not heading this in a gallery. That's fine, but a good tip for the future, right? So at this point, I've filled in my leaves and my stem with my green, and it's just a simple sap green at this point. As you can see, you can see the bumps in the background from where the paint is still too thin, but that's okay. This is just the first layer. I'm going to let it dry a bit, and I'm worked in a bit of white and a bit of Payne's Gray. I want it kind of like a greenish gray color for the background. I wasn't really certain, but I knew I wanted to fill it in with some kind of color. And it should be a shade for the background that will make whatever your subject is, whatever color it is, pop. I tend to look at a color wheel quite frequently when I'm painting. Sometimes if you do this often enough, you get that color wheel memorized in your mind. But it's good to pay attention to that color wheel. I look at the color that I see most often on my painting, and then I go directly across or in the general vicinity, and I want to know what would complement the color I'm using. So yellow is a primary color. A good color to complement yellow would be a blue. So yellow and blue, or blue and orange, those are great complementary colors, and they stand out really well on a canvas. Probably one of the reasons why I like to paint sunflowers so much. It's just very pleasing to the eye. So I wasn't very technical with filling in the background here. I have a very loose brush stroke, mixed in some cerulean blue with some white as well. Maybe a dash of Payne's gray, so it wasn't so paint by number set blue sky. So I let my white show. I didn't mix it up so much that it was completely perfect. So I'm brightening up. I'm adding another layer of on my petals. I know that some flowers can the petals are so large they can offer some nice shadowing opportunities. So generally, if it's going to be brighter on top, and then whatever lies behind it, beneath it, that petal is going to be a bit darker, and it'll be a bit darker closer to the stem. So that's where I'm brightening up as much as I can. You will see some parts where the acrylic crayon is perhaps blending too much with the yellow paint, but that's fine. It's going to be covered up anyway. And there was a part of it where I feel that it lent to being able to identify and distinguish between the different petals a little easier. So that's why I went ahead and left it. I didn't directly go over the lines of my drawing so much. I kind of liked it. It complemented it a bit. So I'm adding some shading towards the center of my flower. And this was, I feel like when I first started learning to paint with acrylics, this was such a relaxing time. And I would think back to when I had my one semester of art. And I remember the teacher telling me about, like, where's your light source? Pay attention to your light source. So some flowers follow the sun. So I know that sunflower is going to be looking towards the sun. So that left side is naturally going to have a lot brighter petals. And then whatever areas, like the top and middle of the sunflower, will probably be a lot brighter. You might have some more shadows on the right side, the darker petals, and the petals underneath, I mean. Okay, continuing with the painting, I am now getting ready to add some more depth to the center of my flower. And in moving about from one section to another, it gives that area time that you've just painted, give it a little time to dry. You don't want to work into the paint too much when it's still damp. Give it time to air dry. And since this is loose, free-flowing paint, it's a lot easier to work with if you're just a little patient. Me, I can sometimes be a little impatient, and my outcome of my art is not always good. So that could lead to things like clumps. It can lead to just a lack of appeal as far as whatever the item is that you painted. You could call it texture if you want, and that's what I end up doing in this piece, but that's fine. So in this part, I am adding a little more shading to my leaves. I was thinking of the light source, where's the light coming from, and I wanted to make sure I had some shadows underneath those petals. Working in some depth into the center of my flower. I have a lot of red oxide and a bit of orange and a bit of cadmium. No, I'm sorry. A bit of gray. So it's in the head of the sunflower, you have like a pit in the middle. And I wanted to demonstrate also a bit more shading around the edges where the head meets the petals. It'd be great if I had the actual names for these things. But I'm talking painting here and not plants. Oh my goodness. I was adding some seeds. I'm trying out, like, sometimes color is so appealing to me that I just want to try something new. And there I go on cleaning off some area of darker paint that really should not have been placed there. So that was a mistake. And I cleaned it up, tidied it up. Not looking for perfect, but better than ugly. So I'm just winging it here, and sometimes it's nice to add some little zany petals, little curly petals. Heading back towards the other flowers, which have had a chance to dry, and adding another layer of yellow, the Dairy Light yellow, over the petals. And when I go over those again once more, I'll be changing up and adding the primary yellow to lighten things up. And here I add some more depth to some of those petals. It also almost looks like a yellow oxide color, like a brownish yellow. Looks very rustic. I like how that came out. Yeah, I should have left it the other way. Sitting here watching, recording, and adding my commentary for you. Did you just think the same thing? I should have left it the other way. Maybe you'll catch me before I paint the next one. But blending in as I go around the center of that flower, sometimes you want to make sure that you add the same color and you repeat it in different places. So that yellow has dried up a bit on some of those petals, and I can go back with the primary yellow. I'm carrying over because I felt that the center of the larger sunflower was just too dark. And here I had too much paint on my brush tips, so I covered it up a bit, wiped it down a bit with the paper towel. I realize not all sunflowers have a dark center. I've seen some with green, and I love varying the shades. So many varieties. So going back over that sky, leaving that white looking a little loose, feeling very Van Gogh-y. Probably should have left it a little looser. But my brush had other plans. Oh, I love Van Gogh paintings. Can you tell? So you could see how I lightened it up. I think that the blue was just not blue enough for me. Of course, it would grow darker towards the top of the painting. But in this instance, well, it's my painting. You could change yours up. Maybe it's the middle of the day. Maybe it's morning. Maybe I made a mistake. I don't know. But you learn as you go, guys. You learn as you go. I know when I laid down those petals for those back flowers, I wanted to make sure they had room to grow. And I did, in fact, lengthen them. When I sketched them out, they were just a tad too short for my liking. And now I don't have any specific plans in mind for my background. I'm just offering varying shades to make sure that my yellow pops. So I'll add a darker shade of Payne's Gray closer to the petals to add a nice contrast. I learned that from Elle Byers. If you want to watch a great artist, and I believe she is an art teacher, she's taught me a thing or two, and her name is Elle Byers, E-L-L-E and B-Y-E-R-S, I believe, and she's also a Texas artist. She makes some great stuff. I know that in following her, I was able to share some of my work that she inspired me with. So shout out to Elle. She's a fantastic teacher. And even after close to 20 years of painting, I still consult others. I know where my weaknesses are, and I know that I want to continue learning. So as the camera angle changed on a new day, I'm going back and adding a little more detail here. I just want to make sure that that it appears exactly how I want it to. Going back, adding that primary yellow on the tips. So you might have noticed that I added another flower in there. It was really bugging me. It was really bugging me that I had 4, that I had an odd number of sunflowers on that canvas. So I'm adding another one. I found a space. And we can call this a new bloom. But it was fine. It worked out great. And even though I had that dark green behind it, acrylic is very forgiving. You can add and build color in new places. As long as you're patient with it and you let it dry and you build on your layers. In this instance, learning as I go. In this instance, yes, even after all this time, I'm still learning. I didn't let it dry as much as I wanted to. So hindsight is 2020, and I also added some darker shade behind some petals just to add contrast and build on that. Was this perfect? Hindsight tells me no. But you know what? I'm learning from it. I'm learning from my mistakes. And hopefully you'll see that the outcome was a lot more pleasing than I'd planned. As you can see in this part, I did go over those yellow petals with white. If you plan to add something new to an area that's already been painted a darker shade, starting with a titanium white is a good start. One layer might not be enough. You might have to add 2 before you add the color you plan to add. And I've done that in the past. I don't know why I didn't just start with the white here, but maybe I was sleepy. I don't know. I tell my students I was watching Stranger Things or something like that. Also, in hindsight, looking at this camera angle that I filmed in, it's not the best, but hey, I'm still learning, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. So be more forgiving with yourself when it comes to any mistakes in your life. Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you know everything. You may have learned stuff, but you have not learned everything. Always a student, never the perfectionist, unless that's where you want to be. But if think of the purpose of your work. If the purpose is for pure enjoyment, mistakes, it's a lot easier to be forgiving of your mistakes. This isn't going on a sale rack anywhere, so it should be fine. I'm enjoying my time painting. There's nothing like sitting down after a long day. I don't like to watch TV a lot. Yes, the occasional episode of Stranger Things, it's nice. But painting is a great time to unwind and quiet your thoughts. And there I had a mistake I wanted to cover up. I was not comfortable with it. And then I was still not comfortable with how I cleaned it up. So I went over it again. And that's why I love acrylics. Another reason I love acrylics. So here I've taken my liner brush and I'm adding in, gone over the darker areas with some browns, with some white dots, even some green and some pink dots. And your color choices here are completely up to you. You can be very precise with the seedlings in the center of your sunflower, or just be haphazard, be whimsical, have fun. add some whimsy to your painting. I mean, if it's just for, oh, there I go, adding whimsy. Those little curly leaves, oh, they're so much fun. Looks like a little mustachio leaf. Can't go wrong with shading, unless you do the shading wrong. I should put that on a shirt. You can't go wrong with shading unless you do the shading wrong. So you'll see in the final moments of this video that I went ahead and added a little ladybug just for a pop of red color on a leaf. Adds a little life to my flowers. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this painting.